The void was a silent witness as the last light of the dying star flickered, a pale ember swallowed by the vast maw of darkness. Crumbling ruins of an ancient empire lay scattered across the shattered worlds, their jagged spires clawing futilely at the emptiness. A galaxy once ablaze with the glory of 1,000 civilizations now whispered of decay, betrayal, and the cold shadow of oblivion. In this twilight of empires, a single pulse echoed, a heartbeat beneath the cosmic silence. It was the breath of those who refused to fade, the immortal agents of the Emperor's will, the unseen hand in the collapse of worlds. Their mission was sacred, yet their souls were stained by the burdens they bore. Before we begin this story, I want you to know this. We truly love and care for you, wherever in the galaxy or on this small blue planet you find yourself. So before we start, tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Now grab your coffee, your tea, or whatever warms your spirit. Let us journey together into the shadowed depths of the Imperium's heart. The air inside the chamber was cold, sterile. Light flickered against the walls, dancing over a figure seated in contemplative stillness. His name was Kalen, one of the Emperor's chosen, an assassin of the Officio Assassinorum, forged in the crucible of endless war and secrecy. His eyes, cold and unyielding, held the weight of centuries. He was immortal, not by divine right, but by cold science and relentless will. Biotransference, gene therapy, and ancient rites had stitched his flesh and mind into something neither fully human nor entirely machine. But immortality was no blessing. It was a curse heavier than any chain. Kaelin's thoughts were shadows flickering behind his eyes. Loyalty and doubt warred within him, a tempest unseen. What was the price of serving an empire that devoured its own? What honor remained when allies turned to enemies and friends whispered betrayal behind veiled smiles? Outside, the galaxy trembled. On the distant world of Varnice, an imperial fortress world vital to the Empire's tenuous hold, fire raged as traitors struck from within. The enemies were many. Xenos insurgents clawing at the gates, heretical cultists spreading poison in the halls, and worse, the creeping rot of corruption among those sworn to defend. Kaelin's mission was clear. Hunt the traitors, extinguish the poison. Yet, as the blood-streaked sky bled beyond the viewport, a cold knot tightened in his chest. Was he merely a weapon, or a ghost tethered to a dying cause? He rose, the weight of his armor pressing like the memories of every life taken in service of a crumbling ideal. Every strike, every death, a thread in the tapestry of a saga written in shadows and sacrifice. Outside, the dying suns flickered one last time, like tears on the edge of night. The Empire's fate was balanced on a razor's edge, and Kaelin stood at the crossroads between loyalty and doubt, life and death, immortality and oblivion. This was only the beginning. The vast halls of the Citadel of Shadows were silent but alive with whispered secrets. The air was thick with the scent of ancient stone and colder things, memories sealed behind layers of time and iron will. Kaelin moved through the labyrinthine corridors like a shadow, unseen but ever watchful. His mind was a tempest of conflicting thoughts, the weight of his immortality pressing ever heavier upon his soul. He sought counsel from one who had walked the paths of death and duty far longer. Master Ardanis, his mentor, a figure as enigmatic as the night itself. Ardanis was an elder of the Officio Assassinorum, a man whose face was etched with scars, both physical and spiritual. Where Kaelin bore the fresh wounds of doubt, Ardanis was cloaked in the hardened resolve of experience. Their meeting was quiet, held in a chamber carved deep beneath the fortress, illuminated only by the flickering light of hololiths displaying the shifting tides of galactic war. Kaelin's voice was measured, betraying none of the turmoil within. The Empire fractures. The traitors strike with deadly precision. I wonder, what is the true cost of our loyalty? Ardanis's gaze was sharp, like a blade honed through centuries. Loyalty is not a question to be answered lightly, Kaelin. It is forged in the crucible of sacrifice. But beware, there are those who would twist loyalty into chains, binding you to a fate worse than death. The word struck Kaelin with a strange resonance. He knew the truth of it all too well. In his endless service, he had witnessed brothers fall, corrupted by ambition, blinded by fanaticism, and broken by despair. The Empire demanded perfection, yet nurtured its own decay. Meanwhile, whispers in the lower tiers spoke of another figure, a rival assassin known only as Seraphine. Cold, cunning, and ruthless, she was both ally and adversary. Their paths crossed briefly during a covert operation on a world consumed by insurgency. The tension between them was palpable, a dance of mutual respect and unspoken threat. Seraphine moved like a spectre, her methods harsh and unrelenting. She saw Kaelin's doubts as a weakness, a flaw to be exploited. Yet, beneath her icy exterior, there lingered a past shadowed by loss and hardened by betrayal. Both were prisoners of their immortality, bound by the same unyielding chain. As Kaelin pondered his place within the swirling tides of war and treachery, a message arrived, a name whispered on the wind. Alaric, a political pawn whose secrets could unravel the fragile balance of power within the Imperium. To protect the Empire, Kaelin would have to navigate a web of deceit, choosing between duty and conscience. The nights grew darker, the galaxy more fractured, and as the stars flickered and faded, Kaelin's internal battle deepened. What was the price of serving an empire that demanded sacrifice but offered no sanctuary? Could loyalty survive the betrayal lurking in every shadow? The journey ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, but Kaelin understood this. To survive was to embrace the darkness within, to become the weapon forged by endless conflict, or to be consumed by the very empire he swore to protect. The distant war drums echoed across the fractured expanse of the Imperium. Worlds bled beneath the shadow of relentless conflict, and yet the fiercest battles raged not only on scorched battlefields, but deep within the minds of those who served the Emperor's hidden hand. Kaelin's own soul was a battlefield strewn with doubt and resolve, loyalty and dread. He stood atop the battlements of the fortress world Varnis, watching the crimson sky churn with the fire of incoming assaults. Below, Imperial soldiers fought desperately against the insurgent tide, their cries swallowed by the storm of war. But Kaelin's war was not just with flesh and blood. It was a war within. His gaze hardened as he recalled the quiet moments of counsel with Ardanis, the mentor's warning still echoing in his mind. Loyalty twisted into chains. He knew now that every step taken for the Emperor came with unseen shackles, every command a weight that threatened to crush what remained of his humanity. A transmission flickered to life in his helmet comms, Seraphine's voice, cold and clipped. Kaelin, the situation worsens. Alaric's movements grow erratic. His secrets threaten to ignite a civil fire within the palace. We must act swiftly. Her tone carried no hint of camaraderie, only the ruthless professionalism that defined her. Kaelin's mind raced. Alaric, the pawn-turned-conspirator, was a wild card. His knowledge of the Empire's hidden fractures was dangerous. knowledge that could unravel alliances painstakingly built over centuries. Yet to eliminate him without proof risked igniting a rebellion that would drown worlds in blood. The internal conflict churned deeper. Was Kaelin the blade of justice or the executioner of innocence? The lines between right and wrong blurred beneath the unyielding weight of duty. Immortality had granted him time, but it had also isolated him, trapped in an endless loop of choices and consequences. Meanwhile, Seraphine's presence loomed closer, their rivalry sharpened by shared purpose, yet divided by philosophy. Where Kaelin hesitated, Seraphine struck without remorse. Their contrasting shadows danced in the darkness, two sides of a fractured whole. In the shadows of the fortress, Kaelin confronted Alaric. The man's eyes were wide with fear and defiance, secrets buried beneath layers of political intrigue. Their conversation was a delicate dance of threats and half-truths. Alaric revealed fragments of a conspiracy that reached to the highest echelons of power, a betrayal so deep it threatened to unravel the very foundations of the Imperium. Kaelin's heart, if such a thing could be called that, ached beneath the weight of revelation. The empire he had served blindly was rotting from within. And yet, to whom could he turn? The mentor who preached loyalty, the rival who sought only victory, or the ghost of his own conscience, whispering of a different path. The skies over Varnis burned brighter with each passing moment. The clash of empires mirrored in Kaelin's turbulent soul. He was caught between worlds, between loyalty and betrayal, immortality and oblivion, a servant and a judge. The dawn of reckoning was near, and Kaelin understood that to survive, he must confront not only the enemies without but the demons within. The cold corridors of the Imperial Citadel whispered with secrets, ancient echoes of oaths taken and broken, of lives sacrificed for a vision that now teetered on the edge of ruin. Kaelin moved silently, a spectre among the shadows, his thoughts heavy with the weight of recent revelations. The betrayal unearthed in Alaric's trembling confession gnawed at him like a festering wound. He found himself haunted by the faces of those he once called allies, trusted men and women whose smiles now masked knives hidden deep within. The empire, vast and eternal, was fracturing, its heart pierced by rot that no blade could sever cleanly. Kaelin sought refuge in the Chamber of Echoes, a sanctuary where the whispers of past assassins lingered in the still air. Here, the ghosts of loyalty and betrayal intertwined, and Kaelin felt their cold presence wrap around his mind. Was he to follow the path carved by his predecessors, who had sacrificed everything in the name of duty? Or was the time coming to forge a new way, one that demanded breaking the very chains that bound him? The tension between duty and conscience was a torment unlike any other. To serve the Emperor was to accept a destiny without choice. Yet Kaelin's soul, fractured and weary, yearned for freedom from the unending cycle of blood and silence. In the midst of this inner turmoil, Seraphine appeared, her arrival as sudden and sharp as the blade she wielded. Her presence was a constant reminder of the path Kaelin feared, unwavering loyalty at any cost. Her eyes, cold and piercing, betrayed no doubt. "Kaelin," she said quietly, "you hesitate. That hesitation will be our undoing." Her words stung, yet beneath the ice was something more, an unspoken understanding of the burdens they both bore. Seraphine, too, was trapped in the same web of sacrifice and shadow, her ruthless exterior a shield against the loneliness of immortality. Together, they moved to confront the conspirators hidden within the Empire's core. Their mission was clear but fraught with peril. Expose the traitors before their poison spread beyond cure. Yet every step closer to truth brought Kaelin face to face with the abyss of his own doubts. He questioned the meaning of loyalty in a world where betrayal wore many masks, where friends became foes, and where the Empire demanded obedience over humanity. That internal struggle raged like a storm, each choice a gamble with death, not only of the body but of the soul. As Kaelin and Seraphine delved deeper into the web of intrigue, they uncovered layers of deception that reached beyond the immediate conflict. Ancient secrets whispered of forces lurking in the shadows, powers older than the Empire itself, waiting to reclaim what was lost. The night deepened, stars flickering in the distant void like dying embers. And as the Empire's foundations cracked beneath the weight of its own sins, Kaelin understood that his greatest battle lay not in the wars waged across the stars, but in the war within. The assassin's path was one of shadows and sacrifice, a lonely road where trust was a luxury and betrayal a constant companion. Yet Kaelin held fast to a fragile hope that even in darkness, a spark of light might endure. The chamber where Kaelin stood was bathed in the faint glow of data screens flickering like distant stars in the void. Around him, the cold steel walls hummed softly, a quiet reminder of the machine-like precision demanded by the Empire. But beneath the hum was a growing dissonance, a discord within Kaelin's heart that no technology could silence. His mind circled relentlessly back to Alaric's revelations, threads of conspiracy weaving through the Empire's fabric like a hidden poison. Every whisper of treason cut deeper, every secret uncovered stripped away another layer of certainty. What remained was the raw, aching question. Was the Empire worth the price he had paid? Kaelin's reflections were interrupted by the arrival of an unexpected figure, Kasara, the political pawn whose fate was entwined with the fragile balance of power. She was young, with eyes sharp beyond her years, a spark of defiance smouldering beneath a facade of obedience. Kasara held secrets too dangerous for open light, secrets that could ignite the tinderbox threatening to consume the Imperium. Their meeting was tense, fraught with unspoken truths and veiled threats. Kasara's gaze held a challenge, as if daring Kaelin to pierce the veil of loyalty and see the Empire's rot as clearly as she did. "You serve a dying god," she said softly. "But even gods fall, and when they do, the world must change." Kaelin's response was measured, weighed by centuries of duty and the hollow ache of immortality. Change is born in fire, and fire consumes all, even hope. The fragile alliance between assassin and pawn was uneasy but necessary. Together, they navigated the perilous corridors of power, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the conspiracy, and deeper into the shadows where trust was a blade that cut both ways. Meanwhile, Seraphine's presence lingered like a storm on the horizon, her ruthless conviction a mirror to Kaelin's own doubts. Their paths intersected and diverged, tension crackling like electricity between them. She accused him of weakness, of hesitation that could doom them all, while he saw in her a reflection of what he might become if he surrendered fully to duty without question. The internal battle raged fiercer than any external war. Kaelin grappled with his nature, immortal yet vulnerable, bound by oath, yet desperate for freedom. Every choice echoed through the corridors of time, every sacrifice a step deeper into solitude. As the galactic tides shifted, so too did Kaelin's resolve. The Empire demanded unwavering loyalty, but in its shadows he glimpsed the fragile threads of a future forged not by blind obedience, but by the courage to face the darkness within. The stage was set for a reckoning, not only of Empire and Empire's enemies, but of the assassin's own soul. The Empire's shadows grew ever deeper as Kaelin moved through the shifting corridors of power and deception. The fractures within the Imperium, once small fissures, had become gaping chasms threatening to swallow everything whole. The weight of immortality pressed harder, each moment a reminder that time was both his weapon and his prison. Kaelin's thoughts often drifted to Seraphine, whose ruthless efficiency both repelled and fascinated him. Their conflicting ideals had carved a rift, yet beneath the cold exterior lay a shared loneliness, a bond forged in the crucible of endless service. They were two sides of the same blade, each tempered by the fires of sacrifice and betrayal. Their next mission brought them to the corrupted core of the Imperial Palace itself, where Alaric's secrets had sown discord among those who once pledged loyalty without question. The halls were thick with suspicion and hidden agendas, a labyrinth where every shadow might conceal a knife. As Kaelin and Seraphine navigated the treacherous political landscape, the assassin found himself confronting more than just external enemies. Doubt gnawed relentlessly at his resolve. Was the Empire's decay inevitable, or could its foundations be reforged in fire and blood? Could loyalty survive when the lines between friend and foe blurred into indistinction? Kasara, ever enigmatic, revealed the depth of her own conflict. Torn between survival and rebellion, she embodied the Empire's fractured soul, young, hopeful, yet scarred by betrayal. Her trust was fragile, and Kaelin knew that one wrong step could shatter the delicate alliance they had formed. Together, the three wove through webs of lies and half-truths, their mission a race against time to root out the conspiracy threatening to ignite a civil war. Every revelation brought them closer to a terrifying truth, one that would force them to choose between sacrifice and salvation. The skies over the Imperium darkened with approaching storms, both literal and figurative. The stars themselves seemed to weep for the Empire's fate, flickering like distant candles fighting against the encroaching night. In these final moments before the tide turned, Kaelin's internal struggle reached a crescendo. Immortal, yet vulnerable, bound by oath yet yearning for freedom, he stood at the precipice of destiny. The assassin's path was no longer just about duty. It was about survival, identity, and the cost of loyalty in a dying galaxy. The skies above Varnis were heavy with storm clouds, churning as if mirroring the turmoil below. The once proud fortress world now lay shrouded in ash and fire, its citadels battered and broken, its people caught in the merciless tides of war. Yet amid the ruin, the game of shadows played on, unseen, but no less deadly. Kaelin stood on the edge of the shattered ramparts, eyes narrowed against the howling wind. The battle raging outside was only a prelude to the conflicts festering within, the betrayals whispered in dark corridors, the alliances forged in whispered deceit. Seraphine approached silently, her presence a blade's edge against Kaelin's own storm of doubt. "They grow bolder," she said, voice cold but steady. "The insurgents, the traitors, the spiders weaving webs of destruction across the Imperium's heart." Kaelin's gaze darkened. "And yet, it is those within who will bring the Empire to its knees." Their partnership was one of uneasy trust, born from necessity rather than friendship. Each carried the scars of millennia, their immortality a chain forged by endless sacrifice. But beneath the armor of duty, fissures ran deep, fractures born of regret, fear, and unspoken questions. The war outside escalated, Xenos forces clawing through the shattered defenses, heretical cultists poisoning minds from within. The Empire's enemies were legion, But the greatest threat was the rot spreading from within its own ranks. In the shadowed halls below, Kaelin uncovered a new betrayal. A trusted commander turned traitor, his ambition cloaked beneath the veneer of loyalty. The revelation struck like a blade to the heart, a reminder that trust was a luxury few could afford. The assassin's mission shifted from mere survival to retribution. Yet the path was fraught with peril. Every step deeper into the conspiracy revealed more questions than answers. Who could be trusted when the enemy wore the mask of friend? As the storm outside broke, lightning cleaving the sky like the fracture of the empire itself, Kaelin faced a choice: uphold the crumbling ideals of a dying empire or carve a new path forged in fire and shadow. The weight of immortality pressed heavier than ever. To be eternal was to witness endless betrayal, endless sacrifice, and the slow unraveling of all that was held dear. Yet Kaelin would not fall, not yet. The Empire's fate hung in the balance, and so did his own. The storm had passed, but its echoes lingered in the shattered streets of Varnice. Smoke curled from smouldering ruins, and the cries of the wounded whispered through the night. The Empire's grip was slipping, a slow unraveling visible in every fractured stone and broken banner. Kaelin walked among the ruins, his footsteps silent, against the cracked pavement. The weight of centuries pressed upon him, a burden compounded by the faces of the fallen, soldiers, innocents, pawns in a game they never chose. Immortality was a curse that forced him to remember every loss, every betrayal, every sacrifice. He was haunted by the memory of a single moment, the betrayal of the commander whose ambitions had cost countless lives. The man's face had been so familiar, a mask of loyalty shattered by greed and treason. Kaelin's blade had found him swiftly, but the victory was hollow, like a wound that refused to heal. Yet beyond personal vengeance, a deeper threat loomed. The conspiracy was no longer confined to whispered secrets or isolated traitors. It was a contagion spreading through the Empire's veins. The core itself trembled with instability, and the shadows whispered of an ancient power stirring from the forgotten depths. Seraphine's voice crackled through Kaelin's comm, sharp and urgent. The palace is no longer safe. Alaric's secrets have ignited a firestorm. The very heart of the Imperium is unraveling. Kaelin's eyes darkened. The assassin knew this was more than political intrigue. It was a reckoning. The Empire's endless wars, its sacrifices, and its betrayals had summoned a darkness that could consume them all. As he prepared to delve once more into the web of deception, Kaelin felt the cold touch of doubt creeping deeper. Was loyalty to a dying cause worth the cost? Could an immortal servant of the Emperor find redemption in a galaxy falling into ruin? The stars above Varnice flickered faintly, as if mourning the Empire's slow decay. And in the silence that followed, Kaelin steeled himself for the battles yet to come, both within and without. The air within the Imperial Palace was thick with tension, a suffocating miasma born of whispered conspiracies and hidden agendas. Kaelin moved silently through the gilded halls, the echoes of his footsteps swallowed by the vastness of the chamber. Every corner seemed to hold a secret, every shadow a potential assassin's blade. Alaric's revelations had ignited a firestorm, spreading like wildfire through the corridors of power. Factions once united under the Emperor's banner now eyed one another with suspicion and contempt. The Empire's veneer of order cracked, revealing the chaos simmering beneath. Kaelin's mission was no longer simply to eliminate traitors. It was to navigate the labyrinth of political treachery, where loyalties were as shifting as the stars. He sought allies in unlikely places, the silent acolytes who whispered ancient prayers, the veteran soldiers haunted by memories of lost glory, and the enigmatic Kasara, whose resolve hardened with every revelation. Yet even as Kaelin gathered threads of resistance, the enemy's shadow grew. The traitors moved with increasing boldness, striking at the heart of the Imperium's defenses. Each assassination left ripples of fear and uncertainty, shaking the fragile alliances that still held. Seraphine remained a constant, her ruthless efficiency both a comfort and a reminder of the cost of survival. Their uneasy partnership was tested as missions grew deadlier and the line between friend and foe blurred. Amid the turmoil, Kaelin wrestled with his own demons. Immortality, once a weapon, now felt like a prison. The endless cycle of death and rebirth had eroded his sense of self, leaving behind a hollow shell bound by duty and regret. A revelation came in the darkest hour. An ancient relic, hidden beneath the palace, held the key to the Empire's salvation or destruction. The choice before Kaelin was impossible. Wield the power and risk corruption, or destroy it and doom the Empire to collapse. The stars outside dimmed, veiled by storm clouds that mirrored the growing tempest within Kaelin's soul. The assassin stood at a crossroads, the fate of the Imperium and his own hanging in the balance. The ancient corridors beneath the Imperial Palace pulsed with a dark energy, a presence that seemed to breathe alongside the crumbling stones. Kaelin moved cautiously through the labyrinthine depths, the weight of centuries pressing upon his shoulders. The relic lay ahead, an artifact of unimaginable power, whispered of in forbidden texts, said to hold the fate of empires. The air was thick with anticipation and dread. Every step Kaelin took echoed in the silence, each breath a reminder of the immense responsibility he bore. This was no longer a mission of shadows and silent kills. It was a reckoning. Beside him, Seraphine's eyes burned with resolve, a stark contrast to Kaelin's weary caution. This power, she said quietly, could save the Imperium or destroy it. We stand on the edge of oblivion, Kaelin's mind raced. The choice before them was a cruel one. Harness the relic's might and risk becoming the very tyrants they sought to defeat, or destroy it and watch the Empire crumble into chaos. The fate of billions rested on a knife's edge. Their journey through the relic's sanctum was marked by visions, ghostly echoes of past emperors, fallen heroes, and forgotten wars. Kaelin felt the weight of history pressing down, a reminder that the cycles of rise and fall were eternal. As they reached the heart of the chamber, the relic pulsed with an otherworldly light, beckoning yet threatening. Kaelin's hand hovered, trembling between grasp and destruction. The silent hall seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the choice that would shape the future. In that moment, Kaelin's internal struggle peaked. Loyalty to an empire fading into ruin, the haunting price of immortality, and the desperate hope for redemption. His past and future collided in a singular moment of truth. He understood then that some sacrifices were necessary, but the cost could never be truly measured. The assassin's path was one of shadows and sacrifice, of choices that defined not just worlds, but the soul itself. As Kaelin made his choice, the chamber shuddered, a ripple across the fabric of fate. The Empire's destiny and his own were forever altered. The air in the chamber was thick with the residue of Kaelin's choice, an invisible pulse that rippled through the very fabric of the Imperial Palace. Outside, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, the stars dimming as if mourning the weight of what was set into motion. Kaelin and Seraphine emerged from the relic's sanctum, their faces marked by the knowledge of what had been unleashed. The power they had sought to wield was no mere weapon. It was a force ancient and merciless, capable of salvation or destruction, bound to the will of those strong enough to command it. The Empire trembled, its foundations shaken by the reverberations of that dark choice. Factions splintered, loyalties shattered, and the air grew thick with suspicion and fear. The fragile peace that had held the Imperium together was unraveling, thread by fragile thread. Kaelin felt the weight of immortality more keenly than ever. Each decision carved deeper into his soul, each sacrifice a scar that time could never heal. The path of the assassin was lonely, a road paved with the blood of friends and foes alike. Seraphine, ever the cold pragmatist, revealed cracks beneath her steely exterior. The relentless pursuit of duty had worn her down, leaving behind a shadow of the woman she once was. Yet in the quiet moments, their shared burden forged a fragile bond, two immortals caught in the same storm. Meanwhile, Kassara's rebellion gained momentum, a spark of hope in the Empire's gathering darkness. Her resolve challenged Kaelin's notions of loyalty and sacrifice, forcing him to confront the possibility that the Empire's salvation might lie beyond blind obedience. Betrayal cut deep when trusted allies revealed their true intentions, factions within the Empire seizing power amid the chaos, eager to claim the relic's power for themselves. The lines between friend and enemy blurred, and Kaelin found himself fighting battles on all fronts. Amid the shifting tides, a final confrontation loomed, a reckoning that would decide not only the fate of the Empire, but the soul of its assassin. The price of immortality, the cost of betrayal, and the hope for redemption all converged on a precipice. As the stars above flickered uncertainly, Kaelin steeled himself for the storm to come. The Empire's fall was no longer a distant possibility. It was an inevitability etched into the stars. The echoes of betrayal reverberated through the war-torn halls of the Imperial Palace. Kaelin moved with measured steps, his mind a tempest of conflicting emotions, loyalty, regret, and an unyielding resolve. The Empire he had served for centuries was fracturing beneath his very feet, its decay no longer hidden behind the veneer of order. The conspirators revealed themselves with ruthless precision, their ambitions laid bare like weapons drawn in the dim light. The relic's power had become a beacon, attracting those hungry for dominion, those willing to sacrifice everything for a taste of immortality's promise. Kaelin's alliances shifted like the sands of a dying world. Seraphine's sharp pragmatism clashed with Kassara's fiery idealism, forcing Kaelin to navigate a treacherous path between ruthless duty and fragile hope. Each choice carved deeper into the fragile tapestry of trust that held their fragile coalition together. The external wars raged on, the clash of empires and Xeno's forces a brutal symphony playing beneath the crumbling pillars of the Imperium. Yet, Kaelin's greatest battle was internal, a war of conscience and identity. Immortality weighed heavily, a double-edged sword that bound him to a cycle of endless sacrifice and solitude. Amid the chaos, a moment of clarity pierced the fog. Kaelin realized that the fate of the Empire was intertwined with his own, an eternal dance of destruction and rebirth. To save the Imperium, he might have to become the very shadow he had long sought to destroy. The night deepened as the final confrontation drew near. The palace became a battlefield of wills where every whispered secret and hidden blade could tip the balance. Kaelin's resolve hardened, his purpose forged anew in the crucible of despair. As the stars flickered through the shattered windows, a quiet truth settled in his heart. Some sacrifices were beyond redemption, and some betrayals bore consequences that echoed through eternity. The assassin's path was one of shadow and blood, where the lines between hero and villain blurred into oblivion. The grand halls of the Imperial Palace, once resplendent with echoes of glory and order, now lay fractured. Cracked stone and shattered banners bearing silent witness to the Empire's unravelling. The very air hung heavy with the scent of betrayal and burning ambition, an oppressive weight suffocating hope. Kaelin stood at the heart of this crumbling empire, the relic's power humming faintly beneath his armoured gauntlet. Around him, allies had become enemies, friends turned traitors, and the line between salvation and destruction blurred into a razor's edge. Seraphine's cold gaze met his, a flicker of something unspoken passing between them, a shared burden born of endless sacrifice. Their uneasy alliance had weathered storms, but now it faced its ultimate test. Trust was a fragile thing, shattered easily and rarely restored. Kasara's voice cut through the tension, a beacon of defiance amidst despair. Her fiery spirit ignited a spark within Kaelin, reminding him of the fragile hope that still lingered amidst ruin. Yet even she could not deny the cost. The price paid in blood and lost innocence. The final confrontation unfolded beneath the shadowed spires, a tempest of steel and fire. Kaelin moved with the precision of death incarnate, each strike a testament to centuries of honing his craft. But the battle was more than physical. It was a war of wills, a test of loyalty and conviction. Betrayals unveiled in the heat of combat, secrets whispered in the chaos, and choices made in fleeting moments that would echo through eternity. Kaelin faced those who sought to claim the relic's power for themselves, men and women twisted by ambition and despair. In the midst of the storm, Kaelin's internal struggle reached its zenith. The assassin confronted the truth of his existence, immortal yet chained by duty, powerful yet haunted by loss, a servant of an empire on the brink of collapse. The clash culminated in a moment of harrowing clarity. To save what remained, sacrifices must be made, sacrifices that would mark the end of eras and the dawn of new shadows. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, Kaelin stood alone amidst the ruins, the Empire's fate forever entwined with his own. The cost of loyalty was etched into his soul, a burden he would carry into eternity. The stars above bore silent witness to the fall and rise, the endless cycle of empires and assassins. The shadows of the Imperial Palace stretched long and cold, swallowing the remnants of a once great empire. Kaelin moved like a ghost among the broken pillars and shattered statues, his armor scarred by battle, his soul heavier than ever before. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and sacrifice, a poignant reminder of all that had been lost. The final confrontation had stripped away illusion and mercy alike. Allies lay broken, and enemies bore the same haunted eyes, a testament to the cost of ambition and the weight of betrayal. Kaelin's heart, if it could still be called such, bore the imprint of every choice made, every life taken, every promise broken. Seraphine's presence was a quiet storm, her unwavering resolve tempered by the ghost that haunted her as well. Their paths, once divergent, had converged in a fragile understanding born of shared pain and necessity. Together, they navigated the labyrinth of politics and warfare that defined the Empire's twilight. Kasara, once the fiery voice of rebellion, had become a symbol of fragile hope, her idealism tempered by the harsh realities of power and loss. In her eyes, Kaelin glimpsed a future that might yet be shaped by courage and sacrifice, even as the Empire teetered on the edge of oblivion. The relic, now dimmed but no less dangerous, rested in the heart of the palace, a silent witness to the tides of fate. Its power was a reminder that some forces, once unleashed, could never be fully contained or controlled. Kaelin reflected on the burden of immortality, the endless cycle of duty and despair, of watching worlds rise and fall while bearing the scars of eternity. He understood that the assassin's path was one of solitude, where loyalty was a chain forged from sacrifice, and redemption was a distant, flickering light. As the stars outside the shattered windows blinked against the void, Kaelin made a silent vow. The Empire might crumble, but its legacy, and the lessons carved into its ruins, would endure. He would carry the weight of the past into whatever future awaited, a guardian of shadows and memory. The dusk of the Empire was also the dawn of new possibilities, a chance to rebuild from ashes, to find meaning beyond duty and death. The assassin's journey was far from over. The dying light of 1,000 suns bathed the horizon in a blood-red glow, casting long shadows over the crumbling remains of the Imperial Palace. The air was heavy with the scent of ash and silence, the silence that follows the storm of countless battles, the quiet that speaks of endings and irrevocable loss. Kaelin stood alone amidst the ruins, his armor battered and scarred, a monument to centuries of sacrifice and unyielding duty. The relic lay shattered at his feet, its once blazing power extinguished but not forgotten, a symbol of a past too heavy to carry, yet too vital to abandon. Around him, the empire he had sworn to protect lay broken, its foundations shattered by betrayal and the corrosive tides of ambition. The stars above flickered faintly, distant and cold, as if mourning the fall of a dream that had lasted millennia. Immortality, Kaelin realized, was both a gift and a curse. To live beyond time's grasp was to watch empires rise and fall, to bear witness to endless cycles of hope and despair. The cost was solitude, a loneliness deeper than any void, a burden heavier than any armor. He thought of Seraphine, her resolve forged in fire and shadow, and Cassara, the fragile flame of rebellion and hope. Their paths had crossed in this crucible of war and betrayal, each bearing their own scars, each bound by choices that could never be undone. Kaelin's final act was not one of vengeance or triumph, but of reflection and acceptance. The Empire's fall was not a failure. It was a transformation, a painful rebirth born of sacrifice and loss. The shadows he walked were not just of death, but of memory, legacy, and the fragile hope that even in darkness, light might endure. As the first stars of a new age began to glimmer, Kaelin sheathed his blade and turned away from the ruins. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was his to walk, an eternal sentinel in a galaxy forever changed. The Empire had fallen, but the story was not yet finished.